and welcome back to Fireside and Fairytale. This is Flosstube number 6 and this is the 14th of September 2024. It's a Saturday and it's lovely to see you. Well, the weather this week has really plummeted and that's why I'm wearing my winter woolly, which I had knitted earlier this year, and that is because it went down to 0 here, 0 Celsius, and we had frost. It's quite early for the time of year, and it's certainly making me feel that I need to be sitting and stitching rather than gardening. But the colour in the garden is wonderful. As you can see behind me, there are some of my flowers from my garden, and I just love this time of year. I have been stitching and I have a finish for you. If you remember last time in Flosstube number 5, I showed you Blackbird Designs and I mentioned the title All Joys for Thine wasn't quite grammatically correct. So I have taken the liberty of changing a couple of things. Now, I love Blackbird Designs and I think all the charts, or most of the charts I'm showing you today, are by them. And I do like to respect designers and their choices, but for this one I actually had a couple of changes. And I don't feel too badly about that because the original itself is quite, reasonably different to the result that they finally came up with, their final result. This is square. They chose to go with a rectangular shape, and there's no title at all in this one. So I did feel that I could make a couple of changes and not offend anyone too much. So here we are. I thoroughly enjoyed stitching it. I find it a little bit tedious to begin with, possibly because I started with the central motif first and actually made mistakes, which is jolly irritating, but I kept going. It's quite a bindy-wendy plant. And quite unusual for samplers. The motifs tend to be slightly more foursquare, but it makes for a really interesting final result. And when I got to about a fifth of the way through this, I started to really enjoy it and went on from there. Now, what are my changes? Well, the title is now All Joys Be Thine, which is grammatically correct. You could have All Joys for Thee if you wanted. That would be okay as well. And I've done it in blue. I just love pink and blue, and there's a lot of pink in this one, and so I went for the blue, and I'm glad I went for that. Now, the other change that I made was to the motifs. This is a really symmetrical sampler, and they had picked up, the little girl had done birds flying across her sampler, and they certainly collected that idea again, but filled it in rather, and I wasn't very happy with that. To me, that doesn't look like a bird. To me, it looks rather like a flying corn on the cob, a couple of them flying across the sampler. So I took the liberty of designing my own basket of flowers and duplicated on the other side, and I think that's worked very well. I also tried to integrate it with the other design, that would be the rather rectangular, the angular tree beside it. So the vase and the tree. The vase is echoing the tree. So there we are, All Joys. And I've stitched this on fibre on a whim, 32 count wheat. I used one thread over two, and it's quite, 32 count is quite an open weave, but I think this still worked very well. I think the coverage was good for this. So very happy to have that, and I'll be looking forward to framing it and putting it on my wall where I'm going to be building a plan to start a sampler wall. The next one that I was working on was Antique Sampler 1861, which is out of this book, In Friendship's Way. There's some lovely patterns in here, but half the book is taken up with what are called strawberries. There are quite a number of strawberries in there with the instructions, and if you're interested in stitching and making some strawberries, then look out for this booklet. However, I had come across this sampler, 1861 Antique Sampler, a number of years ago, and I just really loved it. I love the contrast, the rather dark striking bird, and the black thread used in the lower motifs, and then this very bright, colourful, twisty, beautiful alphabet section on the top. The alphabet is actually, there are 3 alphabets there, and no border, and I'm really enjoying doing this. I decided to be slightly idiosyncratic, and instead of working across the alphabets, I'm working in strips going down the way, which is, I think it's more interesting. There's more variation in what you're doing if you can only do a little bit at a time. And the threads are 2 over 2, and so it makes for a rather bead-like effect. The stitches really stand out, and the colours, they remind me of jelly beans actually. I think it's very joyful. And then of course down to the blackbird. I had to get down to the blackbird. It's not a complete blackbird because it has a pink head. I'm not quite sure what bird it is supposed to be, but with great fun. So I'm thoroughly enjoying doing that, just picking it up and laying it down the odd moment in the day, just for a few minutes, rather than making it a serious stitching session. So the next one that I've been working on, I showed you last time, is really different in that you are not counting holes. You are following what is a stamped design actually on the fabric. Now I got this as a kit from the Oxfam shop, and as you see, slightly tatty, but the threads came with it too, and it hadn't been started, so I was really pleased to discover it. And it's the Williamsburg sampler by Elsa Williams, and it's called The Chase. And if I show you, the chase is down at the bottom, and there is the chase, and the chase is a dog chasing a deer, but as far as I'm concerned, the dog is never going to catch the deer. I think we'll just have the deer very happily not caught and managing to get away. You can see on the top here there's lots and lots of cross stitch, and then the panel at the foot is a variety of different stitches and embroidery stitches, so I'm really looking forward to filling that in. The instructions are quite complicated. There are a great many of them. They're not complicated, it's just the way it's laid out. You do have to take your time to read the instructions because they're on 3 separate pieces of paper, so you're having to sort of check, well, which thread, what stitch, where do I begin? But if you can take your time to do that, then it's not difficult. And here I am, and a tiny little bit of progress. And for this week was the deer. I just went for the deer. I wanted to have the central character completed. The deer is in long and short stitch, and the antlers were in outline stitch, so very straightforward. I'd already done the two 2 flowers last time, and then just a wee spot of the cross stitch, and you can see there how it's stamped on to the fabric. It's lovely linen that's provided with this kit, and I'm enjoying it. It reminds me of my mother and her sewing circle in the 1950s, and they would stitch the stamped design on the linen. It was usually flower, bonneted ladies and crinolines, baskets of flowers, and they would use lazy daisy stitch, which is a form of chain stitch, I think, that's in bright colours. So it's rather reminiscent of that. So I'm really enjoying that slightly different approach to producing a sampler. It is big, so don't expect me to show you this as a finished sampler just in the next couple of weeks, because it won't be finished. I'm going to be taking my time over it. So now, as I was saying, giving you a weather report, it certainly is the autumn now, and so I wanted to bring out some things that are appropriate for the season. And the first one is a little sampler that I designed myself. It's called Mon Jardin en Automne, and it was inspired by my sitting in my daughter's garden. She lives in France. This is really a very quick stitch. It's very simple and nice bright colours. It would not take you long to do. I also have a pillow, again with the blue birds, and I went to the Twisted Stitch Vonna Pfeiffer for her tuition on making pillows, just for a refresher course really, and I will highly recommend her tutorial if you want to have a really fun lady telling you exactly in very, very good instructions how to make samplers into pillows. Her finishing is excellent. And then the third item, and they go in a group, is a little ring box, again with a bluebird on it. And this is just lovely, sitting again on the shelf with the other 2 items. Now, if you're interested in this chart, it is available as a PDF download on my Etsy shop, Fireside and Fairytale, and it does include all 3 items. And if you're wanting to get started on something quick, a PDF is virtually instantaneous. You don't have to wait for anything to come in the post. And I've suggested DMC thread. So Mon Jardin en Automne. Now, one of my subscribers commented that she would like me to show you a little bit more from last time of the Ooh La La Blackbird Designs booklet. It's a wonderful book. There's something for everyone in here. I highly recommend that you obtain it. But I thought it would be nice to show you the first half of the book, which is dedicated to red sampler, French red sampler, red alphabet samplers. And they have a lovely collection in here, something for everyone. The first one is called Marcia Louise, and it has a very nice French motif at the bottom there. I don't know whether they went to France to get these linens, but certainly they are available in France. There's still many of these available still. And the next one is Mon Petit Exemplaire, and that has a lovely border on it. You wouldn't get bored stitching that. All 4 sides are different. Great fun. That's a lovely one. I think that the samplers, the red alphabet samplers originated because the table linen and the bed linen would be initialed with the owner's initials in red, excuse me, in red thread, and so they would practice initials, alphabets for initials, and it meant when the items were sent to the laundry, then you knew who the owner was, and you wouldn't lose sheets or tableware, tablecloths in the laundry, because they were for life. You got them as part of your trousseau, your wedding trousseau. You get all your linen, and it would be for life. And they also have a bag which they've given instructions for. The next one is Le Poulet, and I really like this one. That's the original there. And it reminds me rather of when I was a child, the school I went to, one of the schools I went to, they taught deportment, and deportment meant how to sit well and how to stand correctly, good deportment. And in order to practice good deportment, we would walk around the room with a beanbag on our heads. And this is a beanbag. This reminds me of a beanbag. Now, the beanbags we had to put on our heads would be about that size. They weren't embroidered, and they would have the pie beans in them, and you had to walk so that they didn't fall off your head. And I'm very pleased to say I was the girl who won the deportment badge for that year. So it did remind me of that, the little beanbag. And if you're into dogs, then the next one has a little dog there. And this is Sidonie's Petit Chien, and another lovely alphabet with some really nice motifs. So you can see it's just jam-packed with, you're never going to get bored. There's always something. A little bit French. They're asking for 28 count ale, and that's because, as you can see, the weave is really open in this one. It's a very open weave, so a slightly different, rather more rustic look to that one. And then they have deux oiseaux, and you can see the two birds at the bottom there. It's a rather more four-square alphabet, but again, a really interesting border on that one. So, on that theme, I thought I'd show you my red alphabet. I love stitching red alphabets. I love stitching in red thread, as I think many of you do. We have our favourite reds, don't we? Schoolhouse red is very popular. And this is a very simple, straightforward sampler. If you want a pretty quick result, it's just the capital letters and then red bird. This is called the red bird alphabet, and 4 motifs and no border. It's a very straightforward one, and not inspired by Ooh La La. I actually made this a number of years ago. It's available as a PDF download on my Etsy Fireside and Fairytale shop, if you're interested in going and picking up some red thread and practicing the alphabets. So my new start is out of, I have 2 new starts. This new start is out of Sewing Club. I wanted to go with something that was rather smaller. I do have large samplers on the go, quite a number of them, and I just wanted to get something that I would pick up and pop down the odd moment during the day. So not so large, but I wanted something seasonal, and again, actually, this has a red bird. This is called Rose Hips and Ivy, and I love that it's red and green. I have a red and green house, and I have a green carpet and, as you can see, green curtains, and then either red upholstery or pink. So to have a red and green sampler collection is going to fit in very nicely with my colour scheme. And this has got a red bird, yeah. So this is as far as I have got, and the border on the bottom, and then some of the rose hips going up the side. I've got another 2 of the rose hips to do, and then this border finishes about there. Another border going across. So that's the size of it, not too big at all, and rather a nice shape. This is on R&R Reproductions Winter's Brew, which is quite a greenish cloth, and it's a nice one. And this is 36 count, so I've been enjoying this one. Rose hips and ivy. Now, I had taken some time to find the fabric for the next one. I wanted something that was going to be reflective of the whole feel of it, and it's one that so many people know and quite a few have stitched now, and this is Christmas Garden, and I just love this. Now this has just 4 different colours, Calico Kitty, Fool's Gold, Endive and Heirloom Gold, which is really amazing when you look at it, because it does seem to be extremely colourful, the actual result. But I wanted to get something that was on a lighter fabric, and I did buy 2 fabrics, 2 linens, and to my mind they were still too dark. I wanted something that had a Christmassy feel to it and was going to be bright, and so I wanted Winter Moon. I love Winter Moon, I just love Winter Moon, but I couldn't find it for a while, and then it came up, I think, on Peakside Needleworks, which is one of the shops that I do use online in the UK. And I think you will agree that it looks great with the thread. I hold them up like that. Just a very, very, very bright feel to it. Crisp and Christmassy. So I was absolutely delighted, and it was worth the wait to... do this again. Worth the wait. Now, the pattern is 2 threads over 2, but I'm actually wanting to do 1 over 2 because my fabric is 36 count, which means the sampler will eventually be smaller, but that's fine. I prefer 36 count and prefer 1 thread, and I actually have a tiny little start, which is literally, I don't know, a dozen stitches, something like that, but at least I've begun it. And off we go with that. That's a bottom corner. So quite a few threads purchased, lovely to get them in the post, and I have a very good postal service where I live, and things don't take at all long to come, and that's the thread for that. My purchase for the month is again Blackbird Designs, Moments of Glad Grace, and I obtained this through eBay. This is a lovely, 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 lovely chart. However, the thing that drew me to this, and the decision was made by the title, which brings us full circle, because I was talking about titles at the beginning of the podcast, but I just think this is a lovely title, Moments of Glad Grace, and I do like the ethos that Blackbird Designs have. It's rather shaker and meditative, and I just think that I will have moments of glad grace as I am stitching this, because we agree, don't we, that stitching is more than taking needle and thread. You enter another world when you sit down with your stitching, and I think you have to do it to realise what I'm referring to. But that sense of peace that settles down, is tangible when we are stitching quietly at our work. It's so precious, and I think that's why we love it. So the original is quite a plain one, actually. That's it there, and it's just in really quite faded colours and a lot of dark. Evidently it was again the bird that drew them to this one here, and they built it up a great deal, I think, from the original and made it their own. The colours are very, very bright, but there's your bird in the bottom there now, and there are quite a few that they have derived from the original, so something again for everyone there. So there we have it. That's an update. Fingers crossed this will be recording. This is the 4th time I have tried to record this, and let's hope it works this time. And I do hope that you are continuing to enjoy your stitching, that even if it's a few stitches each day, it's a very, very rewarding thing to do. So have a great time stitching, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much to my new subscribers. It's lovely to see you, and I hope that you're inspired by what I've shown you today. Bye bye.